Today, we're talking about Noah, a zealot I found on TikTok. For a detailed positional explanation, please visit my website or watch my previous video. Here's what Noah says.
One of the reasons that I personally will never be an atheist is because of the problem of epistemic absurdity. Under your typical atheistic worldview, you will eventually come to find that the entirety of your brain, of your intelligence, and your instinct comes purely from natural processes that are only guided towards your survival.
This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the engine of evolution. Natural processes are, by definition, unguided. Survival is the mechanism by which traits are passed down, and not a state intentionally defined as desirable ante factum. The intelligence of any given member of prior species within genus Homo merely happened to be beneficial and merely happened to survive long enough and well enough to reproduce. Nothing about this process requires design or intention. Things can just happen. It doesn't have to be special.
According to your typical atheist, the only reason that I am able to tell that grass is green is because of my evolution, because I was able to survive better by seeing colors. That means that under this framework, my understanding of truth is actually only based on survival and not truth itself. And that is a big problem.
No, not even close. We merely happen to be the descendants of those who developed this trait and survived long enough to pass it on. That this is beneficial is a neat bonus, but not special. Plenty of other traits are accumulated this way, including things that are detrimental. Truth is something defined in language, and therefore has no correspondence with the reality we experience. This concept exists and persists because we have linguistic need for it, and find it rather useful in ordinary conversations. Attempting to dissect why things are or are not truthful is a meaningless venture that degrades your cognition. There is no why, and there doesn't need to be a why. When we employ language, we make choices about how we define and organize the terms we use to describe the reality we observe. The descriptions themselves are reflective of our perceptions and linguistic priorities rather than any inherent properties or features of reality.
Think about it. If at any point in human evolution it was beneficial to our survival to believe a falsehood, then we would believe that falsehood. Our brains would be tuned to fall into that error for the sake of our species' survival.
No, not at all. Belief and falsehood are defined in language, and therefore have no correspondence with the process of human evolution. Plenty of humans, at least since the advent of these concepts within any specific language, have believed all sorts of true and false statements without this affecting our ability to reproduce one way or the other. Natural selection does not operate at this resolution.
A good analogy for this would be a sheep walking towards a cliff. It would be beneficial for that sheep's survival if it saw cliffs as really spiky knives that would harm it, so it never went close to the cliff. If enough sheep started to see cliffs that way, and they ended up outliving the rest of the population because they weren't falling off of cliffs, eventually, through natural selection, every single sheep would have that same mutation. Every single sheep would start seeing cliffs in this way.
This is a terrible analogy because sheep have no concept of knives or cliffs or walking or anything at all. Sheep do not have language. So these word games and hypotheticals pertaining to human cognition are not only irrelevant, but meaningless in the context of describing evolutionary biology. You are speculating on hypothetical animal cognition in order to invoke a linguistically butchered description of an observed phenomenon in order to prop up a linguistic contrivance. This is the danger of philosophy. You have performed a gymnastics of meaninglessness.
And yes, that is a huge oversimplification of natural selection, but that's not the point of this video.
I know this is a massive straw man, but that's not the point.
But back to the sheep problem.
No.
However, under the theistic worldview, this isn't really a problem, because in classical theism, we believe that our very existence is ordered towards truth. Our intellect is a gift from God, ordered towards finding out what reality and logic are.
Special pleading. It's always special pleading all the way down. Nothing of substance, nothing that corresponds to reality, nothing even worth speaking about. Only the desire and determination to dominate and be dominated.
And remember, at the beginning of this video, I clarified that this is a personal reason for me, because in no way does this prove that there's a God. It would just be something very challenging for me to get over if I were to become atheist, and that's not something that's going to happen.
What is there to get over? You have invented a problem from your poor understanding and then refused to resolve it in favor of comfort. You deny the possibility of enlightenment because the darkness you must submerge yourself into is too scary.